afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Aldgate. We're here with a distinguished panel of experts here. We're here to talk about what's happening in Aldgate in the light of coronavirus, how all the businesses are being supported, what support they might need. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to help you work out the best way forward for you as we lead into Christmas and beyond. Lots has happened in the last 9 months and lots of things have changed. There's been lots of changes to government grants, to rules, to what you can and can't do with staff. And that's an ongoing changing scenario. So what we hope to do this afternoon is really give you the latest advice, the guidance, also the opportunity for you to talk to us. And if you're watching today and you've got a particular question that we don't cover or that you would like more information on, you can talk to us this afternoon. You can do that a number of ways. You can ask a question in our Q&A function. So just use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type in your question, and at the appropriate time, I will put that question to the panel on your behalf, or you can chat to us. So there's a chat function. Please use that to share your experiences, maybe to share links, or again, to put a comment maybe on what somebody might be saying. And again, we'll be referring to that and using that to bring it into the conversation. It's really important that you do get as much as you can out of today. So please don't be shy. We're here to give you that advice and guidance as much as is possible. So we have an hour now to discuss this. And as I say, I just want to briefly tell you who's on your screen so you know who will be talking. Leading, and I'll be coming to Zoe first in a few moments. We've got Zoe Barwick. I'm sure everybody in Aldgate will know Zoe. She is the bid manager for the Aldgate Connect BID. And we'll be hearing from her in a few moments. We have with us Alexandra Leader from the City of London. Alexandra is the business engagement manager at the city. And also on the other side of the road, I suppose, in effect, we've got from Tower Hamlets, delighted that both Vicky, who's Divisional Director, Growth and Economic Development at Tower Hamlets Council, is joining us, and also her colleague Chris Burr, who's Head of Economic Growth, and we'll be hearing that from them specifically about what the grants that might be available and other support that is available through Tower Hamlets this afternoon. We're also delighted that we have Finni. So Kenny is a business advisor from the London Business Hub, which is the Mayor of London's LEAP, so the LEP, for London. That is the business support service that's free to all businesses in London. And I'm delighted that Kenny is here and be able to talk to you about how you can access that service and exactly what's available. Now, many of us who are employees running our own businesses, we have a myriad, I'm sure, of HR issues and things that we need to ask. So very pleased also to have Peter Jones from the HR department. He can answer all your questions that you might have around how to deal with the furloughing scheme, how to maybe what you should be doing about consulting with potentially employees that may or may not be going on to that, or who may be sadly at risk at redundancy. So he'll be here to give you any free advice with regards to HR matters. And then lastly, but by no means least, because actually it's really great that we have a real business that's in the area to talk to us about his experience, and Anshul Mehta, who is from a Gate Hotel Group. Now, Gate Apart Hotel, they actually opened as we went into lockdown in March. Brand new hotel, full of great, I'm sure, aspirations for the future, to be met with, having to potentially close as soon as he's open. So it's fantastic that Anshul's with us, and he'll be sharing a little bit about what they've been up to, how they've been coping. Many businesses have had to pivot and find different ways to sustain themselves, and Anshul will be sharing his experiences with us. So that's who I have with me this afternoon. But very importantly, I have all of you watching. So just to remind you, this is for you, and we do want to hear from you. So please, as soon as you want to, please do feel free to put those questions and I'll put those to this panel on your behalf. So to kick things off, I'm going to come over to you, Zoe. Business improvement districts across the country have been doing an amazing job supporting their businesses through these unprecedented times. And I guess, for many businesses, small and large, as we head into what should be a very busy time of year for everybody, clearly it's going to be a very different run up to Christmas this year. So Zoe, over to you. Fill us in on exactly what you've been up to at the Aldgate BID. So you're on silent at the moment, so just need to unmute yourself. You think after all these months of doing these Zoom calls, and we've all got used to that, but we really haven't. So Hi, Zoe.
Yeah, so thank you, Katharine, and it's been a pleasure to put on these seminars that we've run with Katharine and her team over the past year, and I think they've been really good about keeping lights on, keeping conversations happening, enabling conversation, and I think that's fundamental for how we can move forward in an engaged and informed and collaborative way. But just as an intro for me, from me, if some of you are new, I started working in Aldgate with the businesses and the partnership as it was. It's now turned into a business improvement district about 6 years ago. Before that, my connection to the area was the wonderful restaurants in Brick Lane and the Whitechapel Gallery. And I have to say that in both ways I've experienced the area and what it's got to offer. It's only been a positive one, and it's a truly special place, and it's full of character. It's incredibly multifaceted, and this terrible time has only created an enthusiasm for improvement and development, and an appetite for what could become. So we really want to keep it and support it in that way. The BID, or the Business Improvement District, I'll be referring to it as a BID because it's a bit of a mouthful. It started in April this year, and the board convened extraordinary with the encroaching pressures of the pandemic becoming more and more apparent. And at that time, there were a lot of questions and not that many answers, and the severity of the unknown situation had hit hard with lockdown. So the BID went through its business plan and identified key areas to support, to focus on, as well as others that it needed to adapt very quickly. But the BID's core strategy of investing in local projects and programs to support the area to be inspiring and innovative destination hasn't changed at all. And the BID's been in a position to, being so new, to rapidly refocus and adapt to the needs of the businesses in the community. So interesting, unlike the rest of the City of London, Aldgate's strength is that it's got old and new pockets of residential communities. And this is just fundamental, this is a fundamental point, and we've got to engage with residents and make them feel welcome, make sure that they can access amenities in their local environment. And it's critical at this point to support them and the small businesses at this time where occupancy is so low. Yes, so the board was very mindful in doing everything in its power as a kind of collective business voice and unit to do intense lobbying and reinvest into essential projects, listening to the data, responding to what was happening on the ground, and implementing things that would drive high output at low cost. So obviously, of course, the BID has its eyes on safeguarding the absolute long-term future and proposition of Aldgate, and how we can work together to secure the prosperity as we come out of the pandemic. But one thing is for sure, it's been incredibly tough for businesses, and especially those in hospitality, retail, those industries relying on funding, and of course, moreover, small businesses. So if we can work together to keep everyone afloat, then we've succeeded. So there will be people once again in the area to the level that it was before, hopefully. It will be different kind of people, but maybe not for some time. So I can go on to discuss what the BID's actually doing, but big priorities. We've got to mobilise people again when it's safe. We've got to get people spending money again. And we've got to keep talking and singing about Aldgate.
So Zoe, can I just ask what in looking ahead to the next, what's only 3 weeks away now, isn't it, Christmas? Traditionally at this time of year, business improvement districts would be putting up Christmas lights and doing lots of different events and activities to encourage footfall. What are you doing currently in the light that you can't do the normal? What initiatives have you got in place to help with that?
So we are really pleased to support the creation of events in Aldgate Square. That's well, it's not brand new anymore, but it's a beautiful public space that's been opened up. We supported a events coordinator sitting in the City of London last year, had in the region of 20 events, either one day or month long. Audience figures were really great, about 12,000 events, 12,000 people.
That was the old world.
Yeah, so, yeah, exactly. So I think we've only got to plan for events, and people will come, or they will access online. But the way that we've got to use our public space and thinking about and doing things creatively will bring us out of this dormant behaviour that we've had over the last 9 months.
Presumably there are businesses that have opened up outdoor spaces. I mean, that's what we're all having to do. We're in tier 2. We can meet but only outdoors, socially, with up to 6 people, not from our household. So presumably there are many places within the Aldgate BID area that are doing that. So people can still do that within Aldgate.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this public square. The cafe's opened up there now. We've got seating outside. We've been working with a restaurant cluster at Middlesex Street. We've closed the roads. We're working with the council quite intensely, but closing the road, getting chairs and tables out, getting some planters out, making that a nice space. And I think, the winter is here. Outdoor dining is going to be cold, but we just need to get our coats on.
Precisely. Hats, scarves, gloves, and get on with it. I think that's what we all need to do. Yeah. But thanks for that. I'm going to come over to Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Council's, again, very much been at the sharp end of all this, at the coalface, doing an awful lot of amazing stuff to keep everything going. Specifically in relation to businesses, small businesses, large businesses, do you want to talk through, what the next few weeks, months looks like, and what advice and help that you can give at Tower Hamlets?
Yeah, so first thing I would say is a top bit of advice is don't try outdoor dining with full gloves. I don't think it's practical. You need to go out and buy a pair of fingerless gloves from your local business. I'm mainly going to talk through the range of grants and other support that Tower Hamlets will be making available to businesses over the next period. Some of those are obviously common to businesses in the City of London, but the application process is local. So if you are a business that's listening that's based in the City of London, then Alex will be able to update you either during her presentation or subsequently. I'm sure she'll share links on what's done there. So please, City of London businesses, don't apply via the Tower Hamlets website, because we won't be able to help. But yes, so my plan is basically to talk through what we're up to at the moment. And then my colleague Chris is around and will be able to back that up with a little bit more precise information if required, and hopefully be able to stay on the call a little bit later because I need to leave shortly after my slot.
Lovely. Okay.
For which apologies. Okay. So that's me. I'm the Divisional Director for Growth and Economic Development at Tower Hamlets. Next slide, please. So this is what I want to cover today. The first couple of things I'm going to talk about are government grants, which we at Tower Hamlets are administering. Then there's other sources of advice and support, and then the sort of latter half of the scheme is more about local support and partner schemes. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are 4 government-led business support schemes that Tower Hamlets will be administering on the government's behalf. There's the local restriction support grant closed, national lockdown grant, the sector specific grant for nightclubs and other venues. That's a particularly odd and quirky one. The local restriction support grant open. That's for businesses that can trade but are having their trade severely affected by lockdown. And then the additional restrictions grant, which is our own discretionary scheme to try and help out everyone that misses out on all the other schemes and stretch what seems like a lot of money, but in reality isn't a very long way, just managing expectations there. Okay, next slide, please. So the local restrictions support grant we've been given 8.3 million for this grant, and it's based on valuation of agency data. So that means the government knows roughly the profile and size of businesses that we have in the borough according to the business rates that they pay, and therefore have done a calculation which should mean that we have the right amount of funds to pay out every eligible business in the borough. And I'm not going to read through all the details here, but just to say that these are the eligible businesses, and below that is the scale of grants that you might expect depending on your rateable value. And most importantly, that grant is now open for applications via the Tower Hamlets website. And Chris, I think, will advise precisely on which pages to go to there, and we will be sharing this presentation after the session as well.
Vicky,
Next slide.
Vicky, can I just ask, is that on a first come first serve basis? I mean, is it now a rush to get your application in?
No, you need to get your application in within the timeline. And Chris will advise on the closing date, sorry, which I don't know off the top of my head, but the government have, in theory, provided us with enough funds to pay that amount of money as specified to all the businesses that meet those categories. So it's not first come first served in that way. But yes, you do need to meet these qualifying criteria, and the most sensible thing to do is, prior to making an application via the Tower Hamlets website, follow the link on that slide there to the government eligibility checker, because that way you won't be sort of wasting your time if it turns out that your particular category of business is not eligible. And then once you've established that you are eligible, then here's the link to the council website. So what I would say is, if you have the presentation, you can click all the way through on that link, but failing that, if you go to the towerhamlets.gov.uk website, then you should be able to follow a kind of clickable through set of pages that will get you to that link fairly quickly.
And perhaps we could share those links, Tash, maybe in the chat. So we'll try and copy and paste those links into the chat for
that would be great. Thank you. Okay, next set, please. Next slide. Okay, now this is the tricky bit, and it was tricky last time round, and I'm assuming it will be tricky again this time round. So the government has then given us some formula-based funding, and in Tower Hamlets' case, it comes to 6.4 million, and that is for us to help all the businesses which we haven't been able to help through the other schemes. The difficulty for places like Tower Hamlets, and I would frankly imagine even more so with the City of London, is that the government is setting out the level for an award for businesses based on the level of resident population. And obviously, particularly in London, some areas have an imbalance of businesses to residents. We're unusual compared to the rest of the country. And the further in towards the central business district you are, the more that applies. So we've got around 6.4 million to spend on all of those gaps where businesses weren't eligible for other schemes. And the kind of businesses that are likely to be eligible for that are principally those businesses that don't pay business rates. So that's market traders, that's businesses in shared offices where they probably do contribute to rates as part of the wider rent that they pay, but don't have an individual rates valuation. And in other instances, businesses who've sort of been indirectly impacted. So businesses who aren't strictly in hospitality and leisure, but are indirectly affected. So an example might be if you were a supplier of, I don't know, plates and cutlery, you might find that because the wastage is diminished, because restaurants aren't using those things anymore and damaging them or losing them, then your business is impacted. but you haven't strictly been required to close, and so you're not eligible for some of the other grants. Yeah. And then various other categories: nurseries, charities, arts centres and theatres. We are finalising the scheme to try and do the best we can to make that not very much money go a long way, and we hope to launch next week with that scheme. And again, the applications will be via the council website. Right. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so another important thing to note is if you are trying to open or reopen, we do have sources of specialist help and advice available to businesses. And the best place to go for that is, again, the Tower Hamlets website, the business pages, where we have a workplace safety toolkit. And that will provide you with various things you need, including posters to put up to display to your staff and customers, and templates to conduct risk assessments, which obviously are very important if people are to open as safely as they can. Next slide, thank you. Okay, now we're on to some of the local initiatives. This is one that I'm particularly proud of, which is our Pivot project. Now, as we've all heard a lot about pivoting recently, we've all been pivoting in one way or another. But essentially what that means is reimagining or re-gearing your business, reflecting the fact that your normal channels to market may not be open, and therefore you might have to sell different things or do things in different ways. This scheme provides £1,000 of up to £1,000 of advice and or equipment to help small businesses, so 49 or fewer employees, to pivot and develop new revenue sources. This is our first round, and we have we're undertaking to support 50 businesses. Applications for this round have already closed, but the scheme has been very popular, so we're now busy scrabbling around backstage to try and find funding to launch a further round, because we are really pleased at how it's gone. There is a sort of selective element to it, so we're trying to identify those businesses who've got the kind of best prospects of pivoting successfully, and for whom that £1,000 support could make the most difference. So not everybody that applies will get it, but there is a kind of triage exercise as part of your application, and hopefully if you aren't successful, then at the very least some of the feedback you get through that triage may be helpful in itself. Next page, please. So this one probably less relevant to most Aldgate businesses, but just sharing as of interest, because it shows that we are also thinking about our creative and cultural community. We have a creative enterprise zone in Hackney, Wick and Fish Island, which is over on the far eastern side of the borough. And there we're using some of that resource to directly commission people within the creative community, so to effectively contribute to keeping the creative community alive there while doing something productive with their time. Because we know, I think many of us, will you be aware that creative freelancers in particular have found it some of the most difficult to access support. We're also hopefully going to have a small street market, a sort of craft and design-led street market, which, subject to safety assessments, could be a great place to pick up some Christmas presents. Okay, great. Next slide, thank you. And then this is another project which may well be relevant to some of the smaller businesses in the Aldgate BID area, which is a delivery pilot project. Now, I'm sure we all know that there are an inordinate number of home delivery services already, from things like Amazon Marketplace to Deliveroo and so on. But we also know that they can and frequently do charge quite high commissions. And therefore, if you're a small business and already operating on small margins, then that it can be difficult, and it becomes a difficult decision whether it's worth having the turnover to keep the business going, even if you're not really making much profit from it. What we're trying to do with this project is to develop skills and knowledge within small local businesses to help them deal with online ordering and grow their businesses, and look at whether we can connect them with local sustainable e-bike delivery services. So if you're interested in that project and participating in that, then please contact our town centres team at the email address below. Next slide, thank you. Okay, now quick rundown of partner support projects, and I know that some of these are going to be touched on elsewhere in the presentation, so I won't take very long on this. I don't want to overrun my slot. Pay It Forward, I know, is featuring later on, so I won't spoil the story there. Building Legacies, the project which is based in Canary Wharf and supports East London businesses, is again helping companies with COVID safe advice and also finding new supply opportunities. Queen Mary, the university, are doing some very interesting work with student and academic placements to support startup businesses and community organisations. That includes things like legal advice, I believe. University of East London are putting their students to work as well, giving advice on tax and accountancy. And I have to say, although this is a terrible crisis that we're in now, I'm actually very, very excited to see some of these projects coming forward, particularly these university collaborations. I used to do a lot of work in the East and West Midlands, and one of the things that they were always very good at there was usually using European regional development money, making those connections between local universities and firms in terms of consultancy way. And I never thought we were quite as good as we could be at that in London. So one of the very few good things to come out of this is this kind of service evolving and developing. The Inclusive Knowledge Economy programme, that's a big scheme for which we have in part to thank the City of London, actually, because they helped the GLA and London councils administer it. This is part of the business rates retention pilot, where cities and towns were able to keep some of their growth in business rates and reinvest them in projects which were for the general good. And this is about some of London's knowledge quarters, including the kind of Med City area around Whitechapel and bordering Aldgate, to help try and keep the benefits of that knowledge economy or local, or increase the local benefits of those, so helping residents to get to those opportunities. And then we also have the Fashion District, again, over further east in the borough, giving accelerator advice to fashion businesses, and a series of business masterclasses run by our run and facilitated by our enterprise team. So very quick rundown. I'm out of breath. This is just a useful side
out of time, so very quickly.
Good. Okay. A useful rundown on other government financial support with links there. I won't go into it. Most of you are probably aware of those anyway.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, thanks, Vicky. There's a really strong message here, which is there is support out there, and there is some money out there, albeit, and they sound like big sums, don't they? But we know that when they're spread amongst, a large number of businesses, they're perhaps not as large as you might hope. But there is support out there, and importantly, ongoingly, in that they're about to launch. One's just launched today, there's another one coming. So I really appreciate your time, and I know you've got to leave us, but your colleague Chris is going to stay to take any particular questions. So thanks very much, Vicky. I'm going to move us. I'm going to move us into the other half of the Aldgate bid area, the City of London. Quite unusual for a bid to be split in almost half as it is across two boroughs as such. But Alex, have a chat with us about what the City of London are doing, and I'm sure some of that resonates that Vicky's been saying as well.
Yeah, hi, afternoon everyone. So I've been working for City of London for almost 6 years. I am the manager of the City Business Library, but more recently, during sort of the pandemic, I have helped coordinate some of our SME support that we have during COVID. What I'm going to do, I've got a presentation to share with you, but when I've finished talking through what I'm going to say, I'm going to share a number of really key links to the City of London website that I think might be useful for you going forward. How to apply for a grant, for example, as Vicky was just talking about, and then some other support pages for SMEs. Slightly different in terms of what we can offer, because we have our own City Business Library, is the own in-house business support service that we have. Now, we're not just for the city, we are for London, and we've pivoted, as we all have to, and we're now UK wide. I'm super passionate about businesses accessing reliable data. And it does surprise me, actually, even like pre-pandemic, how little research businesses do, A, when they're starting, and B, when they're trading and they're looking to scale. So I pay huge amounts of money for world-renowned databases that I can then offer data to SMEs for free. This is one of the reasons why I asked Zoe if I could join this call today. because I don't think enough people know about us, and I don't think enough people are, especially now when we're having to pivot. Are you making sound business decisions on reliable information? And the answer might be yes. It might be, I've just done a Google search. Please do not do a Google search. That information is not reliable. Please do not make business decisions based on that. So literally, simply as it is that we're a library, we're a specialist business library. We have a range of data, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. You can sign up, you have to be a member, but it's free. And at the moment we are operating digitally, so we will send you data via email. If you're struggling to interpret that data, then we can book a Zoom chat with you and we can help you. So I'm so proud of my team during this pandemic. We've helped so many SMEs, particularly to change their delivery model. So the data that we have, real quick run through. We have company data. So if you're B2B, and it's so difficult, isn't it, to generate new business right now, okay? So we've got an event coming up this week about LinkedIn and how to generate sales through LinkedIn, but actually it'd be really good to know some of the key directors of these companies. So come to us, we can give you a list of 100 companies straight off, and then you're good to go. We also have a database called Bohurst, which I'm not sure if some of you have heard or not. I'm super excited about this one because we're the first public service to be allowed it. Normally it's the corporate banks that have this. We have company data through that, but what we also have is investor information. So if you're looking for investment right now, and when, you know, these pitching events and stuff are just not happening as much as they used to. So we can again give you a list of 10 investors that have been investing in certain sectors during the pandemic. Okay, so that's just another example. We have industry information, that's UK industry and global industry information. So if you need some to understand the trends of your sector, sign up, become a member, we'll send you data. Finally, we have import and export information, and dare I say the dreaded B word is looming, isn't it, everyone, in January. You know, you might want to have a look at new regions to export to. We've got country data, city information. I mean, look, it's endless. I'm going to put a link in the chat in a sec. You can go through and read the data. If you are unsure, if we have something, please just email us. We'll happily help you. If we haven't got the data, we'll refer you to somewhere that has. So that's the data covered. The next thing is we've got free webinars. And again, I'm going to put the link to our Eventbrite page shortly. So you can sign up to a whole range of webinars that we're running topics. I've mentioned one which was about LinkedIn. We're doing one tomorrow about getting yourself investment ready. We do business planning, you know, you name it, we do it. We do some of it with our own in-house business advisors. And we also have, you know, we're lucky to be working, I guess, in the city. We've got quite a lot of the corporate firms helping us deliver some of those webinars, and some technical people as well. So, you know, they're normally only an hour long. Please sign up to some of those. And then the final thing I wanted to say is that we have got business advisors, and I know Kenny's on here, and he'll talk later about the Growth Hub and the amazing work that they do. So, you know, you're kind of, I guess, a bit spoilt for choice here, really, but there's a lot of business advice and support out there. So again, I would encourage you all to please use the services that we have. And that's it, I think, really, from me. But just please use us. Please use our service. It's free.
Alex, just to say that's a great information, because I didn't know that.
There you go.
I've heard of the City Business Library, and I do a lot of these webinars, and this is the first time this has come up. So that's fantastic. And actually, if you were thinking I wasn't interested, I was actually busy signing up to your free service just to see how easy it was to sign up to it, because clearly there's a lot of very useful information there. So it's fantastic that that's actually within Aldgate anyway. And I'm sure lots of businesses don't realise it's there, and that sounds like a really, really valuable resource. So it's probably a good time to bring Kenny in then, because Kenny, you're sort of another organisation, the London Business Hub, part of the Mayor of London's LEAP local enterprise partnership. Tell us a bit about that, and how can you help businesses in this current climate?
Okay, thanks, Katharine. Hi everyone. My name is Finni. Basically, we started the London Growth Hub actually in December last year, with the help of helping businesses build capacity and supporting them with one-to-one sessions and also seminars. So it's actually a blended program. Then the coronavirus, basically, or the pandemic hit in March. We had to change our model at the time and just supported businesses in terms of how they can survive. So we did work with different partners in terms of how they can get funding. We have different hubs in London. I cover the Woolwich hub. I have colleagues that cover hubs in Haringey, in Vauxhall. We have in Hammersmith as well, and then we have in Croydon as well. And we all work also with the local authority. So I work with the business engagement team of the Greenwich Council. So as my other colleagues as well, we have all the delivery partners that we basically work with. We work with the East London Business Place, which Vicky mentioned before, with helping to support them with the Building Legacies program. We work alongside the Southeast Enterprise as well, in the area that I cover. We work with, we have a program in-house that we do ourselves. We have an innovation team that we also help support innovative businesses that need grant funding either for R&D or if they develop an IP and they want to develop the scope further. We have support advisors that can help them go through the whole application. We have advisors in terms of international trade as well. Those are things that are going into export businesses. And then we have our funding partners that we work with. So we work with the Greater London Investment Fund as well. We have a New Urban Ventures that are looking to high-tech Series A funding. So it's a very holistic program that we actually deliver. We also have certain grants. We have the recovery grants, COVID-19 recovery grants, which actually, I'm afraid, now expired on November 17th last month. But we also have, we supported the mayor with a paid forward campaign, just to basically help businesses set up their crowdfunding campaign, a campaign that is also much funded by the Mayor of London for up to £5,000. We have another innovative grant as well. We support BIDs, charities and social enterprise businesses in London. Those that are looking for solutions, basically. And then the round of that close on the 25th of November. So there's going to be another round opening for innovators. We'll be joined together with these businesses to help resolve any other problems that they have. And that's up to £30,000 basically to help support such program. A lot of this information you'll find on our website. It's the London Business Hub at London and www.businesshub.london. We just basically rebranded ourselves. We used to be called the London Growth Hub, but we're now called the London Business Hub. We brought on board one of our sister organization, which is called the Startup Step Up. So they help with our startup provisions as well. We have part of the support we also provide. We have a property advice service. We noticed that during this pandemic, a lot of businesses have a lot of problems in terms of their landlord or leasehold situation or issues. So we've brought in that service as well, where we can provide advice and help and how businesses can basically resolve solutions with their landlord. We have Recovery and Grow program. That's our accelerator program. So we support this. We work alongside the Cars Business School, and we support businesses that have been trained, that have a turnover of about £250,000 to £1 million on that program. And then we just putting together a peer networking program to bring together businesses basically in the area that are like-minded to share experiences and obviously good practice. So we have tons more information basically on our website, but the problem is, there's so much.
I mean, I think one of the things to say is that if you're a small business in particular, we're all having to cope with an awful lot of issues. And actually having the time and the brain power and space to get your head around exactly what's available and what's out there and and what might be applicable to you, or what's the priority. I guess, you know, the main message about the London Business Hub, and I put the link in the chat, is that you can access a business advice service, can't you, which is free.
Exactly.
So you can book an appointment with someone like yourself who can actually sit down, presumably not probably physically at the moment, but virtually, and talk through what your particular priorities are, concerns are, and then you can help to point in the right direction. And also to say that the website is pretty fantastic in terms of registering, and you can then access all sorts of individual information. So, you know, there is a lot of help out there, but it is about understanding what is relevant to you as a business. That's true. So thanks for that. We'll come back to that shortly. I want to bring Peter into the conversation. Hi, Peter from the HR department. Another thing that we're having to grapple with is all of the HR issues that have been caused by COVID. And whilst it is absolutely fantastic that there's been as much government funding as there has been in terms of being able to keep our staff on through the job retention scheme or furlough, whatever you want to call it. Clearly, again, this is something else that businesses are having to get their heads around. What's your advice at the moment, and what are you seeing as the sort of the key things that people need to be making sure they're doing at the moment from an HR perspective?
Thanks, Katharine. Good afternoon, everyone. I suppose the key things is accessing the support that's available for your business. So just to give a bit of context to this, what we've seen over the last 9 months or so is quite a varied picture in terms of how the pandemic has actually affected different types of businesses, and we can, you know, broadly categorize it by industry sector, but also from company to company it does vary quite differently. But I mean, typically what we've seen is that industry sectors such as hospitality, leisure, bricks and mortar, retail and events have perhaps been the most dramatically hit, and they're the ones who have been accessing schemes such as furlough throughout this period. Other areas are probably less affected, and we've seen kind of less implementation of those government schemes in areas, particularly financial services, where I know there's been 1 or 2 issues, but actually it's a lot less the impact on those type of businesses. So, I mean, where we are at the moment, and it's been a very interesting time, particularly over the last 2 months or so with the announcement of the latest lockdown. We were due to end the furlough scheme at the end of October, the original furlough scheme. That was going to be replaced by the job support scheme, which potentially had the most complicated equation for calculating the benefits that I have ever seen in an employment context. And thankfully for my brain, I think more than anything else, that scheme has been delayed, and the furlough scheme, or the job retention scheme, has been reintroduced again for a period of time. So we know that it's going to be running until the end of March. The current level of benefit that's able to be claimed by companies is really reflective of the position back in August. And you might remember back in August, that's when the benefit to the employer started to diminish. The employer was actually having to contribute a bit more towards furlough. Well, we're back to that position now. With the additional benefit, I guess, of the part furlough scheme, which was something that my company was quite active in campaigning for. And this allows for companies to reintroduce staff back to the workplace on a part-time basis whilst maintaining some type of furlough support. And this wasn't actually available in the early days of furlough back in the early months. So we're pleased that got introduced as well. The kind of benefits are due to, you know, it pays for 80% of salaries. Currently, the employers required to pay pension and NI contributions. And this level of support is due to continue until December. Now, we don't quite know the date of December. We're all assuming it's the 31st of December, but the government are being quite vague about the actual date in December. So we are watching this space, but I'm not sure things will change too much with the introduction of the 3-tier system or the toughened 3-tier system. That's kind of our assumption right now, but we are watching this space. So that's probably the main thing that we've been working on, together with redundancies, of course, and restructuring of businesses.
So just on furlough, the key things that people need to remember, I suppose, is that it is completely flexible currently, and it can be retrospectively claimed. Is that true? So you can actually.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But there are a few key criteria. So employees would need to have been on the payroll system either on or before midnight on the 30th of October, and also had the real-time payroll information submitted to HMRC. So there are some restrictions, but employees who hadn't received furlough previously would be entitled this time around, as long as they met those criteria.
Yeah, and it could be that you could say to someone, you need to go on furlough, and then you could have hopefully a busy period and think, oh my goodness, I need some more staff. And you can pick up the phone and you can bring them back in for an afternoon or a few hours or a day, and that's fine, because you could just claim for the time that they actually don't work, in effect. I think
so on a part-time basis, which is that flexibility that prior to that, it was there had to be a 3-week continuous period of furlough to get the claim the amount. So it's quite a big jump forward from that perspective.
And quite an administrative job as well. I know the person in my small company that has the pleasure of trying to work out what they are and aren't claiming on furlough it's almost a full-time job in itself. But that's where I guess talking to someone like yourself could help in terms of trying to give companies support with that whole process to make sure that they get it right. So, I mean, it's good news that it's there. People should try and take advantage of it. We don't know what's going to happen from January. It could be, as you say, that contribution level might decrease from the government. It's watch this space, really, isn't it? But I guess the most important thing is for businesses to make sure that they do access that if they need to, because it could be a really valuable support.
Absolutely.
Conscious of time, and I want to bring Anshul in. Hi, Anshul. So for you, opening a hotel in March, I'm sure it took you, there was a lot of planning that went into that opening. And then as soon as you opened, you pretty much had to shut down. But tell us a bit about what's happened and how you've pivoted as a business, and how indeed, we're here in Aldgate, supported by Aldgate BID. What's the role that the BID has been playing to support you through the last 6 or 9 months?
Absolutely. Firstly, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you so much, Katharine. It's been a wonderful insight, information from other panelists on the discussion. Great, insightful for, as a business, what we are running. The Gate Apart Hotel, we are brand new, a luxury apartment for lifestyle living, opened in just before the pandemic hit in March 2020. However, the biggest support and the contribution what we have received is from the Aldgate Connect BID via Zoe. I think so that has kept us floating to date, and we have never closed our doors. We have been supported by Zoe by introduction to a lot of government bodies, including the NHS, where we have got the nurses and the doctors currently staying with us, along with the scientists who are working on the COVID project, which is phenomenal, absolutely great. More about, it's about the community, what we are working, what we have been looking forward for supporting us, especially into this last 9 months. As we all know, the hospitality sector has been hit very, very hard. What we created, what we opened as a property for more of business traveler, luxury living style for people who are looking to either come relocate into London for nearly 3 to 6 months down the line. However, we have to change our strategy completely. It was a drastic change with regards to a strategy where we were hoping for more of business traveler, local people, local businesses coming and staying during this period, especially with the city and the Aldgate business district close to us. We have to change the strategy and looking for people, more about international students who wants to relocate, who can't go back to their home countries. We have been housing them for long-term staying. So these are the factors. Along with that, what we have also partnered with Aldgate BID on the TAP program, which is again 15% off to the local communities, local businesses, local offices. We really, really hope, post COVID, the community, more importantly, the Aldgate business community, the London city, they come together and support the hospitality and retail sector. One another initiative which has been created by Aldgate BID and other key members along with the City of London is to introduce the city gift card. We really, really hope that the local businesses and the local residents take that advantage and support, more importantly, the hospitality and the retail sector moving forward. As we all want to, I think so everybody is waiting out there to have that Christmas feel coming in. As soon as probably from tomorrow onwards, we're going to be back into the tier 2. So we are really looking forward as our gates are open for people to welcome into our arena.
Okay, Anshul, are you seeing already with the change to the restrictions coming into effect this week, are you already seeing inquiries? And I know there are restrictions. You obviously just can't go and stay in a hotel with anybody. You have to stay within your household. But are you actually seeing, bookings now coming in that people are wanting to take advantage of a change of scene? How are you finding that?
Absolutely. I think so. The period of 23rd to 27th of December, that government has been looking to announce it. We have seen a great pickup coming through for the month of December as soon as the restrictions have been lifted. So over the weekend, we have seen a pickup coming through for December, January period as well. And it's great to see that people are looking forward to come back and have a bit of an enjoyment, have a bit of a party out there, hopefully. But with, of course, the social distancing, the measures which have been placed by the government is very much followed by the people. That's what we hope, and that's why we are, as a social business, are looking forward and running with those criteria in place.
Okay, that's great. Chris, hi Chris, you've been patiently actually doing a great job answering some of the chat, because there's been some questions that are coming in via the chat, people asking for advice. And if you're not looking at that chat, do have a look at that, because there's some great links that are helpful there to people. But Chris, you're in charge of economic growth for Tower Hamlets. Difficult subject in this current climate, and I'm sure you've seen examples of how businesses have pivoted as we've been talking about. But what is sort of your overriding sort of view and feeling at the moment about maybe what the next 6 months might be looking like in terms of that for businesses?
Oh gosh, that's a big question.
A bit of a hard question, isn't it?
Yeah. I think first off, we have great empathy and great respect for the businesses and what they've been doing. During the course of the pandemic. It's been really difficult for all concerned. I think certainly at Tower Hamlets, and I'm sure at the City of London as well, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're offering support as quickly and as seamlessly as we can to the business community. In terms of the next 6 months, predictions, my crystal ball is not great, but I guess what we'd really like to see, people coming back to the town centres, more footfall on the high streets, more expenditure going through the doors of our retailers, our restaurants, our pubs, when they're safely able to open again. And we really just want to see life returning to the city, as I think we all do. During those periods in between lockdowns, it felt fantastic to be back in the city, to be back as part of it, and I'm sure the wider community feels that too. So yeah, I think really hopeful that the vaccine is successful in kind of helping our business community and our local economy get back to thriving as soon as possible.
It does feel like there is a light at the end of what feels like quite a long tunnel still, but nevertheless there is that light coming forward. And I guess it's about everyone working together. I think Alex, you wanted to come in here.
Yeah, it was just really interesting to share some data with you. So at the City of London, we've been looking at, we were looking at business closures actually across the summer, and we saw very relatively low numbers of businesses closing. We saw a spike in September, and I believe that's linked, I think, to changes in government support. But what I did want to share for me that cheered me up actually was that we had 65 businesses start in the month of September in the City of London. So slightly down on this time last year, but only by like 12%. So actually people are starting businesses, and we are starting to look forward, and hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel, as you say. So that sort of cheered me up a little bit to see that stat.
Yeah, and I can share anecdotally, in our experience at White Label, we run business awards, and we've been super excited by the fact that businesses who applied to an award in Jan, Feb, March, when the world was all rosy, we've actually just announced some awards in the last couple of weeks, and I think 99% of the businesses that applied back in the old days are still going, and they are done some amazing things in terms of changing and pivoted their businesses, and we've seen new businesses opening. So it is difficult, isn't it, when you see the headlines that we saw yesterday about massive redundancies in the retail sector. Clearly terrible scenario, but there are some seeds of hope, I think, that we all need to hold on to. And I think these webinars are great to share that, because, you know, as a small business, you sometimes can feel very lonely, and actually just hearing from other people what they've done, and it does give you that boost that you need. And so I want to bring you back in, because there is a question in the chat about, you know, how can a business maybe work more closely with Aldgate BID? How can they maybe give some suggestions? This is one forum that you've put on, and obviously part of the reason for that is to try and get some feedback and involvement. But clearly the role of any BID, and I know at Aldgate in particular, it's a big thing for you to get this network of businesses together to share and learn and grow together, is an important factor, isn't it? So just tell me a little bit about, you know, about what might be, how you can help that moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Katharine. Thank you for the chat. It's been really the comments in the chat, that's been really helpful. And yes, for businesses that want to be involved and suggest new things, please contact and touch base, and then we can identify whether you want to and have time to sit on steering groups, or just feed in organically and anecdotally, and we'll try and look at things that are really important to you. That's absolutely fine. Also, just to promote the city gift card, like Anshul is saying, this is a big project for businesses in the city and in Aldgate. It's as a response, is partially developed as a response to the corporate sector asking the BIDs to develop some kind of incentive to put in welcome packs for staff, probably next year when they come back in. And this is again to support the local community and spending there. So we are going to launch at the beginning of, probably at the end of this week or next week, launch into the big corporates to buy these preloaded cards, and then they'll reissue them to their staff to spend locally. 15%, it's been shown that 15% of gift card users tend to wander into a new business, and 65%, there's been an increased spend by 65% using a gift card. So that should work really well for the vendors that are registered on the card.
So it's still possible for businesses to register to take part in that scheme?
Absolutely, it's a rolling programme. We've obviously done a big onboarding in November to launch with, but it's a rolling programme and you can come on at any time. So it's from services to retail, hospitality, anything that you sell, you can sell through the gift card.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Okay.
Yeah, no, it will be really good. It will be really good. And then just before we finish, there's a well, in previous years, there's a Christmas or a winter celebration in Aldgate, which has taken the form of massive lanterns, community-made lanterns, parading through the streets of Aldgate, ending up in a winter fete in the square. Obviously, we've had to completely reimagine it this year, and it's been a fantastic feat of everyone changing attitudes and circumstances. But we've got a really great online and offline program of events, and a public art display around in kind of central Aldgate, around the station. And then also in Toynbee Hall, just near Toynbee Hall. So please, I'll send you around some information about that, but please do get in touch or be involved in any way that you want.
Fantastic. Can I ask all of our panelists, if you haven't done so already and you're happy to do so, can you share your contact details in the chat, just if anyone wants to pick up individually with anybody on any of these points, and we will ensure that we share that anyway with all the people that are watching. This webinar is being recorded and then will be made available, I believe, on the Aldgate BID website. So there'll be this information here for others to share and for you to share with others if you do require any more information. I think the message that's come across loud and clear, there's two messages I think that come across from this afternoon. The first is that there is support out there. It isn't easy, but there is support out there, and you need to reach out to work out what support is best for you. And all these people and others that have been mentioned are here to help. So a huge thank you to everyone that's been on the panel. And I think most importantly, there's a strong message to say that Aldgate is open and is ready to welcome people back in a socially distanced, COVID secure way as we move out into the next phase of lockdown. And as we head into Christmas, you know, do take advantage of getting out into the streets, enjoying outdoor dining, meeting with family and friends in a COVID safe, secure way, and really making the most of Aldgate and everything that has to offer. So thank you to everybody for taking part. It's been really helpful, very interesting. Thank you for all your comments, and we'll see you back here again very soon. Thanks very much, and goodbye from all of us.